Now, just a little word of caution. If you are sowing out of season, so for example, if you've lost a few plants and you decided to sow a few more now, and you've brought them down to the greenhouse recently, bring them back in to the house tonight because they haven't acclimatized properly. It's been really mild, especially at night time, so they haven't acclimatized properly. So they've only been in the greenhouse a day or so. The shock after being germinated in Barbados and then being brought down to the greenhouse, and it will be Alaska tonight, what will happen is the plants haven't had the chance to build up the sugars in their cells yet because they haven't needed to, and they're too vulnerable, they're too tender, and the water in the cells will shatter and it will burst the cells, and then what happens is they looked fine and then you come down the next day and they've just collapsed in half. Sweet peas are terrible for that because there's a long stem. So if you've ever come down and found your sweet peas just collapsed in half, it's the cold shock that's killed them. Now, how to get around it? A piece of fleece is not going to be enough. Even if you've got them on a heat mat, if they're not covered, they can still wilt, and you can steam them to death. If you put them on a heat mat and then put a lid on the top, you can actually boil the seedlings if you're not careful, because it's ever so damp as well, especially if the compost is wet. So how to get around it? Don't bring seedlings straight from indoors to the outdoors when it's going to be freezing at night. Take them in at night. They're fine during the day. Then after that, when it is fairly mild, so not freezing, lid on them, bring them from the house, lid on them day and night. And that makes a nice little microclimate for them, so they're transitioning. And then, as long as it's not freezing, take the lid off during the day, back on again at night. And then eventually you can take the lid off night and day. You know what I'm going to say. Don't make it the first night you take the lid off a freezing night. Postpone until it's a bit milder. And then finally, just to be complete, if you've got any newly germinated seedlings and they germinated in the greenhouse, then they will be fine. They've come up in the greenhouse and they've got used to it. That won't hurt them. It's the moving. They didn't know. If you move them from one place to another place, that is what gives them the shock because they weren't expecting it. There we go. I am all covered up for the night. It's only going to be for tonight. So I've just put the fleece over the top. And if you've got any seedlings and you think, oh, they should be all right, they've been in the greenhouse for a week or so already, then what you can always do, just to be on the safe side, a bit of double glazing. So propagator lid and a bit of fleece on top. So I just take a big step back so you can see only the more tender plants like the sweet peas, the anemones ranunculus, nigella, snapdragons, sweet peas. They're the only things I'm bothering to cover. Anything really hardy like the cornflowers, the larkspur, the sweet rocket, Orlea grandiflora, anything like that is really hardy. It's been in the greenhouse the entire time, does not need covering up. They'll even be going out under the cold frames once they're a bit bigger, probably in January time, so they don't need covering up. All of the hardiness ratings are in your handbook, and there's also a section on my website called Cold. So all of the information is there. There's a list there if you need it, and you can also find videos from very cold periods where I show you how the plants have fared. But as I say, it's only going to be a little cold snap.